Judge imposed 13 death sentences this morning against reputed drug pin Kidada Savage.
Hey, kids got a pet for making my kids cry. I want to smack one of these 4-year-old sons in the head with a bat. I'm going to smack one of these 4-year-old sons in the head with a bat.
The streets of Philadelphia were once trapped in chaos, filled with fire, fear, and a ruthless kind of rule. No witness, no crime. That was the code, and it all traced back to one man, Kidada Savage, known on the block as a legend with a dark edge. But when things started closing in, it wasn't Kidada who made the next move. It was his little sister, Kidada Savage. On behalf of her brother, she gave an order that shocked everyone. She demanded that a house be set ablaze with people still inside, even a baby. And when it was all over, the two words she spoke next showed just how cold her heart had become.
About his desire to eliminate witnesses and eliminate families. At one point, he tells an associate, "No witness, no crime."
Born in the early 1980s, Kidada Savage grew up under the heavy shadow of her older brother, Kidada, the same man who would later make history as the first from Philadelphia to ever receive a federal death sentence. Kidada wasn't just known, he was feared and respected all at once. He trained at the Front Street Gym, hustled heavy in the streets, and built a name that blended danger, loyalty, and power. While Kidada ran the front lines, Kidada stayed low, studying every move, watching how influence and control truly worked. By the early 2000s, the Savage crew didn't hide in back alleys or old warehouses anymore. Their entire world revolved around a regular row home at 3643 North Darien Street, known to everyone in their circle as the Castle. That's where the money got stacked, the plans got made, and where lives could be changed in a single decision. Kidada, nearly a decade younger than Kidada, never blinked at the violence around her. She had learned early that in their world, showing fear could get you erased. Kidada didn't need anyone to teach her the rules. She already knew how the game worked. In their world, loyalty wasn't a choice, it was survival. And fear was how you kept everyone in check. The Kidada Savage Organization, or KSO, wasn't just another crew pushing weight. It lived by one cold code: no witness, no crime. If nobody took the stand, there was no case, and the Savages made sure those seats stayed empty no matter what it took. But by 2004, things started to fall apart. Kidada, or Kibo as the streets called him, got locked up in the federal detention center in Philly, facing serious federal charges. But evidence wasn't his biggest threat. The real danger came from the one person who knew it all, Eugene "Twin" Coleman. Twin had seen everything, every move, every deal, every secret. When the law came for Twin, he made a move that changed everything. He started cooperating. He agreed to testify. And for Kidada, that wasn't just betrayal, that was war. But he couldn't fight it himself. Trapped behind bars, locked in by glass and concrete, he needed someone he could count on, someone who could act for him on the outside. That's when Kidada Savage stepped up without blinking. She became the street boss, running KSO with the same fire her brother once had. She visited Kidada constantly at the FDC, sitting behind the glass while he raged and plotted, feeding her every plan and warning. Kidada listened closely, then took it straight back to the streets. She handled the money, kept the crew tight, and made sure anyone even thinking about flipping got the message, loud and clear. Late in 2003, Kidada walked right up to Twin Coleman during a prison visit and told him, "Don't let these crackers break you." It was straight intimidation, no hiding it.
Savage, who was preparing to testify against him, were killed. In all, 6 people were killed in that firebombing. 4 children ranging in age from 15 months to 15 years, and 2 women.
When that didn't shake him, she wrote a letter that would later destroy her in court. In it, she played on loyalty and memories, reminding Twin of Wildwood, Great Adventure, and my graduation. She wanted him to remember where he came from and who he owed his silence to. Then the whole energy shifted. Fast. Kidada stopped trying to reason with him and went straight to anger. She cursed him out, demanded to know exactly what he told the feds, and made it crystal clear that cooperating was not an option in their world. But by October 2004, the truth was undeniable. Twin was going to testify no matter what. That's when KSO reached for the most extreme move possible. On the night of October 8th, 2004, the phone rang inside the castle. On the other end was Kidada, calling from prison. He asked for Lamont Lewis, better known on the streets as Poppy Eye, the group's top enforcer, a man who would later admit on that very recorded line to being involved in at least 11 killings. Kidada didn't spell things out over the phone. He didn't have to. He asked Lewis for a favor and told him that Kidada would explain everything once the call ended. That single moment flipped Kidada's role forever. There was no turning back after this. As soon as the line went dead, Kidada turned to Lewis and laid it out plainly. She ordered him to firebomb the Coleman family home and told him to do it between 3 and 4 in the morning, when everyone would likely be asleep. Her instructions were chilling. She wanted no one left behind. To seal it, she promised him $5,000 that very night. Kidada rode with Lewis through North Philly, cruising block by block until they reached the 3,200 block of North 6th Street. They slowed near a single-row home, 3,256 North 6th, and Kidada pointed it out herself. Inside that house were people who had nothing to do with street life at all. It was home to Marcella Coleman, twins' 54-year-old mother, along with her niece Tamika Nash and several children from the family. In the early morning hours of October 9th, they were all asleep, unaware of what was being set in motion. Lewis later brought in his cousin, Robert B.J. Merritt, to help. They stopped at a gas station, filled 2 red containers, picked up a weapon in West Philly, and headed back north. By 4:08 a.m., their movements were already lining up with what a Philadelphia police officer would later piece together. The countdown had begun. They got pulled over for speeding, and everything was right there. Gas containers, a weapon, all of it sitting in plain sight. But then, fate stepped in the worst way possible. The officer got a high-priority radio call and let them go with nothing more than a warning. Just like that, they were back on the road.
Like Savage, a boxer, Flowers was prepared to testify against Savage in a common police court murder trial. 2 days before that trial, he was gunned down, and that trial never took place.
They reached North 6th Street around 5 a.m. The block was silent, still half asleep. Lewis rushed the front door and fired 2 shots inside, not to hit anyone, but to stop anyone from trying to run. Merritt moved fast. He spread the fuel across the living room and tossed in the second container right behind it. The fire exploded instantly. The staircase turned into a wall of flames, cutting off any escape. As they took off, Lewis could hear screaming behind him. He called Kidada and told her it was done. By the time firefighters arrived and knocked the blaze down, it was already too late. There was nothing left to rescue. Investigators later confirmed that the people inside never had a chance. 6 family members and even the family's dog were gone. Kidada met Lewis afterward to pay him, and even then, she shorted him. Instead of the promised $5,000, she handed over $2,000, a rundown car, and later some illegal substances. When Lewis told her he didn't realize children were inside the home, he expected something. Shock, anger, regret, anything. Kidada didn't react at all. She brushed it off coldly, making it clear she didn't care. To understand how someone like Kidada Savage could calmly help send people to destroy a home with innocent lives inside, you have to look beyond her. You have to look at the person who shaped the entire nightmare, her brother, Kidada Savage. Before he became just another federal inmate number, Kidada was a kid raised in the Richard Allen projects of North Philly. And that's where this whole story truly begins. He was born on New Year's Day, 1975, and his life shifted early.
Judge imposed 13 death sentences this morning against reputed drug pin Kidada Savage. Jurors unanimously approved the sentence for Savage last week.
When he was just 13, his father, Joe Savage, passed away after a long illness, leaving the house without structure or guidance. With no steady hand at home, the streets stepped in and finished raising him. Fast and hard, Keone, known as Kibo, flirted with the idea of going legit, or at least looking legit. He trained at the legendary Front Street Gym, a place known for producing real fighters, not pretenders. He wasn't just another kid throwing punches either. He was a junior welterweight with quick hands, a sharp jab, and real promise. In 1997, he even turned pro and won his first fight, but boxing checks came slow, and in North Philly, illegal money moved fast. So Kibo made a choice. He set the gloves down and picked the scale up. Still, he didn't jump straight into running things. He started at ground level, selling PCP-laced product right out of his mother's house on North Darien Street. But Kibo was never built to stay small. By the late 90s, he wasn't pushing tiny amounts anymore. He was moving serious weight, hundreds of kilos, locked in with the Erie Avenue crew and flooding the city with supply. His reach spread fast, and so did his reputation. That same family row home at 3643 North Darien Street turned into the nerve center of it all. Everyone called it the castle. Inside those walls, Kibo ran his operation by one cold rule: no witness, no crime. And that rule didn't begin with the Coleman firebombing. It had already been etched in blood years earlier. On March 19th, 1998, at 8th and Butler Streets, a man named Kenneth Lassiter accidentally bumped Kibo's car while trying to park. A small moment that would spiral into something far darker and set the tone for everything that followed. It started as nothing, a minor car bump, barely any damage at all. Keone jumped out, demanding payment on the spot. Kenneth Lassiter apologized and tried to calm things down, but that wasn't enough for Keone. The situation escalated fast, and Lassiter lost his life right there in the street, all over a moment that should have ended with a handshake and a drive-away. There was a witness, Tiberius Tib Flowers, a local boxer who knew Keone from the gym. Tib saw everything, and unlike most people, he was willing to testify. That single decision put him in serious danger. Keone got locked up and was suddenly facing the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars. But even locked down, his influence didn't stop. From inside, word spread that Tib Flowers was never supposed to make it to court. On March 1st, 2004, just days before the trial, Tib was sitting in his car on the 3700 block of North 8th Street. A shooter approached and fired repeatedly before disappearing into the night. Tib never got the chance to testify. With the key witness gone, the case collapsed. Prosecutors had nothing left to stand on, and Keone walked free. That moment locked a lesson into his mindset, one he would carry forward without hesitation. Take out the witness, beat the case. After that, the KSO slipped into an even darker chapter. By September 2000, paranoia was running high inside the organization. One of Keone's own associates, Mansur Shafiq Abdullah, ended up in his crosshairs. Keone believed Abdullah was skimming money from the operation. He paid Abdullah what he supposedly owed, cash packed inside a red sneaker box. But that wasn't the end of it. After the handoff, Keone gave the signal to his enforcer, Kareem Bree, and what followed showed just how far KSO was willing to go to enforce loyalty and fear. No questions, no second chances. They destroyed the body and dumped what was left on North Park Avenue. Fire wasn't just about cruelty, it was strategy. Flames wiped away proof, destroyed traces, and erased anything that could talk later. In Kibo's world, fire meant silence, and silence meant safety. A year later, in September 2001, Carlton Mohammed Brown became the next target. Keone believed Brown was responsible for the death of someone close to him. Without hesitation, he sent Lamont Poppy Lewis to handle it. Brown was shot and killed on Darien Street, right near the Savage family home. A message sent loud and clear to anyone watching. By February 2003, violence hit again. Barry Parker tried to take control of a drug corner at Franklin and Lucerne, territory that belonged to Stephen Northington, one of Keone's trusted lieutenants. Northington complained, and Keone's response was cold and direct. Nobody takes what's yours, handle it. Parker was tracked down and shot in the chest, another problem erased. Then came Tyrone Tolliver in March 2003. Keone suspected Tolliver might be cooperating with law enforcement, but there was more to it than that. He also wanted to test his closest lieutenant, Eugene Twin Coleman. Keone forced Twin to help dispose of Tolliver's body, dragging him deeper into the mess. A calculated move meant to tie Twin to the violence so tightly he could never walk away. Keone believed he was locking Twin in for life, but he misjudged him. In April 2004, the pressure finally exploded. Federal agents came down hard. Keone was indicted on major drug conspiracy charges and locked up at the Federal Detention Center in Philadelphia, staring at decades behind bars. And then came the worst possible outcome. Eugene Twin Coleman cooperated. Keone had beaten a murder case before by silencing a witness. But this time, the playbook was about to fail. Keone decided to run the same play again. But this time, there was a problem. Twin was in protective custody, completely out of reach. Keone couldn't touch him directly, so he went after what he thought would hurt most: Twin's family. What Keone didn't realize was that the walls were closing in fast. Federal agents were listening to everything. His cell was monitored, the visiting rooms were monitored, even casual conversations were being recorded. Every word, every joke, every reaction, all of it was captured. After the firebombing that took the lives of 6 members of the Coleman family, including children, Keone's behavior on those recordings shocked even hardened investigators. Instead of fear or restraint, he sounded pleased. He laughed with other inmates and made cruel jokes about how there wouldn't be proper funerals because of the damage caused by the fire. He mocked the situation like it was entertainment, not real lives lost. In another recording, Keone explained his thinking, and it was deeply disturbed. He claimed he didn't view the children as innocent at all. In his mind, they were future problems, not victims. His reasoning was warped but simple. He believed that because his own family was suffering, someone else's had to suffer too. This was the man Kidada Savage was taking direction from. This was the mindset driving the violence. A person locked inside concrete walls, obsessing over revenge instead of reality. He spoke freely, not realizing that every word was tightening the case against him. While Keone sat behind bars talking recklessly and showing exactly who he was, he had no idea he was doing the investigators' job for them. Every recording pushed him closer to consequences he could no longer escape. Without realizing it, Keone was handing the government exactly what it needed. The case stopped being just about drugs. It escalated into something far bigger. Federal prosecutors shifted gears and began building a death penalty case. They named it Operation Falling Star, and the title fit perfectly. The Savage Empire, built on fear and fire, was finally starting to burn itself out. But KSO didn't fall apart just because law enforcement suddenly got sharper. It collapsed because of the one thing Kidada Savage always feared more than prison: someone talking. In 2007, 3 years after the Coleman home was turned into ashes, federal agents caught up with Lamont "Poppy Eye" Lewis. At first, it wasn't even about the firebombing. Unrelated charges pulled him off the street. But once the feds laid everything out, multiple killings, conspiracy charges, and the very real threat of the death penalty, the image cracked. The man known for being fearless finally broke. Lewis decided to cooperate, and when he did, he didn't hold back. He talked about everyone: the king, the queen, and the entire inner circle. That single decision reshaped everything and set the stage for United States versus Savage, one of the most disturbing criminal trials Philadelphia had ever seen. The trial kicked off in February 2013, and from day one, it was clear this wasn't a normal case. The jury was anonymous and fully sequestered. U.S. Marshals escorted jurors everywhere they went. Every person in that courtroom understood the danger. This was an organization known for targeting witnesses as policy, not exception. Prosecutors built the case piece by piece, laying it out carefully, and at the center of it all were the recordings, the very words Keone thought would never come back to haunt him. Jurors sat in stunned silence as they listened to Kidada Savage's own voice playing through the courtroom speakers. They heard him joking about the deadly fire that took 6 lives. They heard him laugh and make sick comments, treating the tragedy like it meant nothing at all. The room was heavy. Every word made it worse. Then Lamont "Poppy Eye" Lewis took the stand, and things got even darker. He walked the jury step by step through the night of the firebombing. He explained that Kidada Savage didn't just pass along instructions, she was hands-on. She rode with him, pointed out the exact house, and made sure there was zero confusion about where the fuel was supposed to be poured. Lewis told them about the promised $5,000 payment. He explained how, after the fire, Kidada shorted him, handing over only a couple $1,000s, a rundown car, and later, illegal substances. That testimony hit hard because it showed planning, control, and intent, not panic or pressure. Kidada's defense team tried to frame her as a victim of circumstance, a younger sister trapped under the shadow of a violent brother. But the evidence told a completely different story. This wasn't someone acting out of fear. This was a woman moving with authority, giving directions and making decisions she fully understood. She knew exactly what she was setting in motion. On May 13th, 2013, the jury returned with its verdict: guilty on all counts. Kidada Savage was convicted of RICO conspiracy, 6 counts of murder in aid of racketeering, retaliation against a witness, and using fire to commit a felony. When sentencing came in February 2014, the judge didn't hold back, calling the crimes barbaric. Kidada was sentenced to life in prison plus 10 years. She was sent to FCY in Tallahassee, while Kidada Savage received his own sentence, bringing a brutal chapter of the Savage story to its end. Kidada Savage's fate was sealed not long after. With the recordings, the witnesses, and the trail of violence laid bare, the jury had little room to debate. Prosecutors painted him exactly as the evidence showed: a man who built an empire on fear, silence, and destruction. In 2013, Keone was sentenced to death, becoming the first person from Philadelphia in modern history to receive a federal death sentence. The courtroom was tense as the decision was read aloud. There was no emotion from him, no apology, no regret, just the cold stillness of someone who believed his own rules should have protected him forever. The same rule he lived by: no witness, no crime, ended up destroying him. The wiretaps, the prison calls, the cooperation from inside his own circle all stacked up until there was nowhere left to hide. The system he tried to manipulate turned into the thing that buried him. KSO was finished after that. Without leadership, without fear holding it together, the organization crumbled fast. Members scattered, flipped, or faded into the background, trying to distance themselves from a name that now carried nothing but consequences. The castle on North Darien Street stopped being a place of power and became just another house with a dark past. What started as a street crew chasing control ended as a federal case built on their own words and actions. Every move meant to silence people only made the spotlight brighter. And in the end, the Savage name became less about power and more about how fast an empire can collapse once people start talking. The situation went beyond life in prison. The government wanted more. Prosecutors argued that any man who could order mass violence from inside a federal detention center was too dangerous to exist anywhere, even behind bars. Their case was blunt and unforgiving, and the jury agreed. On June 3rd, 2013, Kidada Savage was sentenced to death. Not once, not twice, but 13 separate death sentences, one for each killing he was convicted of, plus an additional sentence for witness retaliation. It was historic and chilling. He became the first person from Philadelphia in modern history to receive a federal death sentence. Kidada was transferred to ADX Florence in Colorado, the most secure prison in the country. This is where the system sends people it believes are beyond rehabilitation. Terrorists, spies, and men considered permanently dangerous. Locked down 23 hours a day with almost no human contact, it's isolation on another level, buried alive inside concrete and steel. But the story carries one last twist, a cruel layer of irony that feels unreal. Years earlier, on Mother's Day in 2009, while Kidada sat locked up awaiting trial, violence found its way back to him. His young daughter, completely removed from his world, was caught in a nearby incident that had nothing to do with him. A stray bullet struck her, and she lost her life, an innocent tragedy that shocked everyone involved. For more than a decade, Kidada sat on federal death row. The families of his victims waited, believing the sentence would eventually be carried out. But history took another turn. On December 23, 2024, President Joe Biden granted clemency to 37 federal death row inmates. Kidada Savage was one of them. His 13 death sentences were reduced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, ending one chapter but reopening old wounds for many. If you made it this far, like, subscribe, and drop a comment with your thoughts on this case. Stories like this matter, and your voice does too. I'll see you in the next one.